Are you wondering if the new Chinese model MiMo 2.5 Pro is truly frontier or just hype? In 10 minutes, I'll show you what it can do, with numbers and real cases. Don't judge MiMo 2.5 Pro by its promises. Wait for the tool call cases. So, when a new multimodal model is released, the first reaction is always the same. Okay, but how much is it really worth? According to Xiaomi, MiMo 2.5 Pro focuses strongly on three things: the agentic aspect, the ability to handle long-horizon tasks, and non-trivial software engineering. In practice, not just answers, but work that continues over time, with tools, steps, and coherence. And there's a detail that makes this release different from the typical chatter. Xiaomi positions it as the most capable model to date, with improvements over the previous MiMo V2 Pro, specifically in agentic scenarios and in very long contexts. Now, the real question is, okay, but how does it compare with frontier models? But wait, there's a detail that changes everything. I don't want to sell you a story. I want to take you into real cases, tool calls, hours of autonomous work, success rates on concrete problems. Those are the places where you see if the model holds up. In the next sections, I'll show you the use cases and then we'll compare them with the benchmarks cited alongside the top models. The first result isn't always perfect, but look where the agent goes when it continues. Let's start with the most important point. MiMo 2.5 Pro is not just presented as a chatbot. It is presented as a system to be used in agentic scenarios. Xiaomi claims it improves instruction following within agentic scenarios. So, it's not just follow the request once and that's it. It's about maintaining the thread when the request becomes ambiguous, lengthy, and full of subtle requirements. And here comes the part I always look at: consistency in ultra-long contexts. The idea is that, as the agent progresses, it doesn't lose pieces. It shouldn't be brilliant at the start and then fall into chaos. Now, examples. You have two paths: either stay vague or look at real work. Xiaomi presents a very direct case: a SysY compiler in Rust. In their test, MiMo 2.5 Pro completes the task in 4.3 hours using 672 tool calls, and the scoring reaches a perfect 233/233. And it doesn't stop there. In the same experiment, they also mention a first compile with a pass rate of 137/233 tests, and they cite a 59% cold start rate. What does this mean? Translated into human terms, that in some runs, the agent has to start cold and isn't always perfect on the first try. But the machine, when it's in its lane, reaches the result. But wait, there's another case that's even more real life. Not compiling, but building stuff that looks like real software. You'll see it in the next section. If an agent writes you 8,192 lines and actually finishes, then it's not just a demo. Okay, let's move to a case that doesn't resemble a chalkboard exercise. Xiaomi talks about a full-featured video editor. It's not theoretically it could. It's the agent produces a working app with a final build of 8,192 lines of code, and it does this in over 1,868 tool calls in 11.5 hours of autonomous work. This is a metric I personally appreciate, because it doesn't just tell you it solves, it tells you how much real work had to be done between steps, tools, and iterations. In my opinion, this is where you also understand the sense of being long horizon. If a model isn't designed to hold up through hours of cycles, it breaks in the middle, or starts over, or loses requirements. And to avoid staying on generic software, Xiaomi also adds an electronic engineering case: analog EDA, FEFLDO design and optimization. They describe it in the Node TSMC 180 nm CMOS, and they say that 6 metrics arrive within spec simultaneously. What really interests you, if you're evaluating the comparison with frontier models, that these examples point to different competencies: coding plus agentic tool use, and then engineering optimization with constraints. But wait, now that you've seen the cases, here comes the part you really care about: what benchmarks are cited and where MiMo 2.5 Pro stands compared to the top models. Okay, benchmarks, but the real question is whether you can use it without going crazy. Okay, now let's pull out the numbers, but with one rule. I use them to orient myself, not to believe blindly. According to MarkTech Post, among the key benchmarks reported are SWE Bench Pro, Clawval, and Tal3 Bench. For MiMo 2.5 Pro, SWE Bench Pro 57.2, Clawval 63.8, and Tal3 Bench 72.9. And the same article makes a positioning claim. Those numbers would place it alongside models cited as Claude Opus and GPT-5 style in evaluations. Then there's OpenRouter, which reports performance and also the position as Xiaomi's flagship model. It's not a definitive proof, but it's another signal. On OpenRouter, there's also a context length value of up to 1 m, and there are performance metrics, AVG 36 TOC/S, AVG 2.21s latency, and AVG 9.30 SE2E latency. It also indicates an average tool call error rate of 0.48%. So, when we talk about comparison with frontier models, it's not just it does well on benchmarks, it's also it holds long conversations, and when it calls tools, it does so with a declared low error rate. Now, we need to be honest. These data depend on configurations and contexts, but one thing is clear. Releases are no longer in the nice demo territory. They are entering real tools and tasks territory. But wait, before we wrap up, there's a question that almost no one asks well. How much does it cost? How do you try it? And what changes for you if you don't want to waste weeks configuring? Now the part that saves you days. Beta, access, and costs. Well, here we talk practical, because a top model that you can't use is just a PDF. On the official model page, Xiaomi states that MiMo 2.5 Pro is in public beta with the date of April 22, 2026, and it declares a rollout, fully rolled out on API platform, AI Studio, and other services, with no change in pricing. Moreover, it states that you just need to replace the model tag with MiMo 2.5 Pro. Now, the costs. OpenRouter reports prices per token, specifically 1/m input tokens and 3/m output tokens for the model. I'm not saying OpenRouter is the only truth in the world, but it gives you an order of magnitude to understand if it makes sense in your flow. And there's one last point that saves you wasted time. When evaluating an agentic model, don't just look at textual quality. Look at the tool calling aspect, the error, the latency, and how often it needs to repeat. OpenRouter, in the Xiaomi provider, reports an average tool call error rate of 0.48%. It helps you understand how often the chain breaks. If you're thinking, okay, but what do I use it for? I'd say two paths. First, coding with long and multi-step requests. Second, projects that require tools and iterations, like editors, automations, or engineering flows. And here I'll close with a question for you. Would you use it more for compiling and debugging code or for building applications with long cycles? If you want, let me know in the comments. And if you're also interested in how I integrate it into my workflow, you can find Mnemonic in the description. Let me know in the comments. Would you use it more for coding or for agents? And if you're interested in how I integrate it into my workflow, you can find Mnemonic in the description. See you next time.
Made in 90 seconds with Mnemonic.